and I checked again myself, and they are all there. So, okay, so anyway, it's live streaming again, so we're ready to start. People slowly filtering in, but we'll begin. And let's see if Sam is here. I just want to check because he had an interesting question that I'll address anyway, even if he's not here, because it was a good question. And then I can just direct him to the recording so he can hear the answer. And then Betty also had another question that I'll briefly address. And of course, you can bring more questions, but we do want to have a little bit of discussion, a little bit of closing this course down and going over some of the future possibilities of practicing, continuing to practice and learn the debate format and using it, especially in your daily life, but also in your work and in your investigations of reality. Okay, so first things first, let's just see Betty's question in case Sam does come in. I'll wait to answer that. And Betty was asking about, in general, what are the components of debate that we didn't cover in this course because we didn't cover every single thing, right? So, well, a few of those things are just extra phrasings or extra statements that can be made in the debate that are still, they're not the root kind of structure, right? But they're still appropriate responses or ways of questioning. So those are in that document that I mentioned in the first session today. So that's the Nalanda language of Nalanda debate number 2. And so it just has a few other extra little phrases that can come up. We didn't go into how to use them exactly, so don't worry about it, but just so you know that they're there. But one of the aspects of that is simply that there really can be two different types of statement slash syllogism, two different types in the sense that we can talk about something for example, and just to show you the screen share. Okay, wait, this is the original one, the second one here. So we have, and this is the first part of this. So it's just showing that there's a whole different kind of statement. Take the subject on a smoky mountain pass. It follows there exists fire because there exists smoke. So here now we're talking about not the subject now has a particle on, right? Which is showing that there's some location, right? It's a locative particle. The subject on a smoky mountain pass. So now we're talking not about identifying whether the subject is, a color or a shape or a taste and identifying its qualities itself. But now we're talking about in general, in a certain location or within a certain subject, does this phenomenon or quality exist or not? So that's like when we use the English word have, the verb of possession, that also is what's happening. So if you say, take the subject, a lemon, it follows it has a sour taste. Another way of phrasing that would be, take the subject within a lemon, it follows that there exists a sour taste. So this is actually a different kind of question that we have to sort of think about in a different way. I just want to point that out, and we're not going to get into it, but I'm just pointing that out. That's one of the things that we didn't cover, just because Betty asked. And then the other things really are, and I'm not going to go into any level of detail, but just to state that really this collected topics, what actually we're calling in the series of the educational videos, the lessons, we're calling the philosopher's toolbox. And so we're calling it that because that's basically what it is. And it's not limited to Buddhist philosophy in any way, although again, it's founded in the perspectives of certain philosophical thinkers, philosophers, who happen to also be Buddhist. But it's really the logical exercises and the concepts that allow a certain understanding of logic to arise can be universally applied, and those are the things that we didn't really get into. Essentially, all of the lessons of the collected topics. So there are many things there, but it has to do with understanding how negatives work or negations, and thinking about how the more deeply about the nature of pervasion and kind of looking at the different, how just all the different ways it can go between a predicate and a reason, all sort of looking at that with more clarity and getting more precise about that. And then just again looking at this distinction between permanent phenomena looking and impermanent ones, looking at the distinction between a generality versus instances. There's a lot of sort of basic principles of logic like that, which we didn't get into. So those are the things for those who are wondering what we didn't cover. So that would be a longer course.
Yeah, so would you generally also learn about particular strategies, questioning strategies as a challenger, or are those learned sort of more implicitly, you sort of figure it out while you're debating?
Good question, right. So in terms of specific strategies, interestingly enough, that is not something that is a sort of a separate lesson. Right, it's not. So that's something that you learn about while you're debating and also in the classroom, because what is a class in when you're studying introductory logic in the traditional form? Well, the teacher, so generally there's roughly, you know, 2 to 5 times the amount of time that you spend in the classroom is actually spent debating. Depends on which institution, but roughly at least twice as much time spent debating than in the classroom. In some places, it's as much as 5 times, because you would say maybe have at the minimum 2 hours of class per week, and then you'd have at the minimum 3 hours of debate per day. So you're really having quite a bit more, right? So more debate than class time. But either way, in class, the teacher will go through the text, the material in the textbook, and just go through it, reading it aloud, and then making comments on it, and then suggesting debates, sort of giving a launch pad for the students to start making a debate. So giving specific questions, allowing the students to sort of, call out answers, and then the teacher will go based on those answers and instruct them in how to carry this debate on. So that's another way that you learn the process of coming up with a line of reasoning and the strategy for how to conduct a debate. Let's see if there's.
Yeah, I also found that when it's very helpful to just listen to these videos of the debates, sample debates that were posted on YouTube, and probably to listen to this multiple times so you have some procedural learning going on of, oh, just in general, how does this work and what kind of things can I ask, in what ways can I answer, that kind of thing.
Right. And the videos, and we'll put up, like I said, we'll put up more. We have a few more that are produced, and I highly recommend that you just, well, I'll communicate once they're up, and so people will know. You'll be able to see. I'll send an email saying that there are more videos up, and it would be great if we can produce more and have maybe a more kind of organized approach, in the sense of taking a specific subject, like all the five types of external form, and sort of having a recorded debate going through each of them, or comparing the different joints for each, to cover each of them in some way. And that would give everyone a good sense of it. But again, as we're emphasizing this kind of procedural learning, this proficiency-oriented approach to debate, the best learning tool is just getting in the ring and doing it, right? Just going and doing it. And why is that? Because it's sort of like, I mean, if you're thinking, think about other skills, right? That you learn in school, or even out of school. So say you want to learn yoga, right? Or you want to learn music, how to play an instrument, or you want to learn how to do some kind of, art, acting, any kind of skill-based, creative skill. Taking a class in theory on that thing, the theory of art, the theory of acting, is a totally, totally different practice, experience, and education than actually taking a class in art and music, and like learning to play the guitar and learning about music theory are totally different things. So here we actually are learning to debate, right? So how do you do that? You have to actually get in the ring and practice. Okay. So while we're here in our last session, so I think I answered that Betty's question. I did not answer Sam's question yet, and I'll just check the list if he actually is here. But maybe he wasn't. Doesn't look like he was able to make it today. But I'll just answer it because it's probably a question that other people have in mind, and I'll just briefly answer it. And his question was to just read it. Does the concept of axioms exist in the debate technique? So he gives some examples. Descartes' famous "I think, therefore I am" is his axiom that he builds upon, etc., etc. So are there axioms in debate, right? So in one sense, yes. In another sense, that's not, that's not a term. Well, of course, this comes from a different language, so that's not a term used, but there's no sort of direct equivalent even of that term that's one of the primary concepts within the debate tradition or the logic, the Nalanda logic. But in a sense, certainly you can say that. Let's just take his example right here. Descartes' famous "I think, therefore I am." Well, what is that? That's a statement of privation, right? I think, therefore I am. So, well, I mean, that this is one of the things that's addressed in one of the videos on the syllogism, is the difference between an Aristotle syllogism versus the Nalanda syllogism. But, we would kind of say, take the subject I, it follows it exists, or take the subject I, it follows it exists. Why not just say it because it thinks, right? That would be the syllogism, three-part syllogism, and the provision would be if if something or some being, if something thinks, then it necessarily is, it necessarily exists. So if you're calling that an axiom, then what is it? If that's an axiom, then that kind of just means all statements of pervasion are axioms, right? If something is produced from causes, it's necessarily impermanent. Sure, you could say that's an axiom. If something either exists or does not exist, it is necessarily selfless, empty of self-sufficient, substantially existent self. So those are certainly things we could call axioms that would fit into this. I guess just in the sense of having like a more basic one than others, we could certainly within the Buddhist philosophy identify some that way, which in the tradition again those are the four kind of they call them the four seals. That's a little bit strange word, but they're basically, why not, some people I think even use this English word when they're describing them, the four axioms, right? The four basic axioms of Buddhism. So that would be, whatever is what is it? Whatever is a compounded phenomenon is necessarily impermanent. Whatever is a I'm trying to use words that aren't so Buddhist sounding, but I don't know a way around it. Whatever is an impure or contaminated phenomenon is necessarily in the nature of suffering. If something is a phenomenon, it is necessarily selfless. And then this last one is less of a statement of pervasion and more of just a thesis statement, which is that the cessation of suffering and the cessation of afflictions is peaceful, right? Nirvana is peace, as it's often worded. So those are sort of the four axioms within the Buddhist philosophical tradition, beyond just logic itself, but sort of more about the path to happiness and so forth, the psychological transformation that the Buddha had sort of guided students to achieve. Okay, so that answers that from Sam, and now let's talk about, okay, we have a hand up. Andrew, come on up.
Thanks. I just wanted to say something about this question because I also found it very interesting. So I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to contribute to the answer. So yes, I agree with Donya that the four seals are considered more or less an equivalent of an axiological commitment in Mahayana doctrine. But the thing is that there's a lot of alterations, and Mahayana philosophy doesn't make much of a distinction between pre-axiological commitments and formal axiological commitments, as you might conceive of them in Western classical logic. And there's interesting spin-offs of how to read Mahayana philosophers, including Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti and whatever else, through this formal lens of Western logic. So if you're interested, I would suggest you read Graham Priest and Jay Garfield and Jan Westerhoff. They're all excellent Western scholars that do try to portray the formalized kind of system of Buddhist philosophy through the lens of classical logic. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you for that contribution, those comments. And I also just want to mention that there is some difference here in terms of, again, just the sort of basic understanding of what knowledge is and how it's produced, and as a knowledge seeker or just a human being, what is your duty and role in developing knowledge? And here, this would be an area where maybe in some Western traditions, like in the mathematical traditions, like axioms are sort of things that oftentimes are more or less, meant to be taken on as rules, or they even use the phrasing like, so assume that, or given that, y equals mx plus b, or given, I'm not giving an exact example, but they often use this phrasing of given that or assume that. So in the Buddhist context and logic in the Nalanda tradition, you don't assume or give anything, right? Nothing is a given. So yes, maybe you have a certain philosophical school within which you're trying to work, and so that you kind of agree, okay, we're taking now the tradition of the Vaibhashika. Okay, now we're taking on the tradition of the Sautantrika, and so these are different philosophical schools, and then you just, like we were saying, accept the textbook kind of explanation of things. But in reality, I should say, as really for your personal thinking, that's not recommended, right? It's the idea is that everything, so even this notion that all compounded phenomena, whatever is a compounded phenomena, is necessarily impermanent, that itself is not meant to just be accepted, but you have to generate a realization, or which we call, an inferential mental state, which again definitively, without doubt, realizes that to be true, realizes that the truth of that compounded phenomena are impermanent. And so that's a process that is so the point being, yes, axioms are there, but they're not meant to just be accepted. Okay, thank you for these. Good. We have some names of those texts. Okay, so now what we want to do, if there are no more questions, checking, good. If there are more questions, raise your hand. If not, then what we'll actually do as another way of reviewing, now to review like the material that we had just been doing in the last session at the end, and we didn't go into the different joints, 3 joints, 4 joints, equivalence, and contradiction. We didn't have time to cover those, but we will be sending out a final quiz, so you guys can look over the quiz and using your memories at first, so don't run too quick to your books. Try based on memory to fill in the correct answers on the quiz, and that will come out just after this session parts, after we end this session, and then you'll be able to review the material that way if you're the kind of person who likes to write down answers to questions as a means of reviewing. And then I do want to just, sorry, Marika has a comment.
Yeah, sorry. And also, I've already posted a course evaluation sort of on our Slack channel of day 5, and it would be really helpful for us if you were to fill this out. So in the category of things that are coming up, I'm probably, I'm also going to post the link here in the chat so you can get access to it as well.
Yes, and we will ask everyone to keep that Slack forum sort of in your attention for the next couple days, because we'll continue to post more example debates. The quiz will go up there. And if there are other needs, like someone has a specific question, like about one of the topics we covered and wants more explanation, then we could create another document that would explain that as well. So just keep that in your radius and keep that under your radar, I should say, the correct expression I was looking for. And then we'll, in the next couple days, post more. Likewise, with this actual virtual Sarah J debate courtyard, that will be available for people to come and meet up and debate, and even just kind of check out, again, the kind of images and the cool things that are here for at least, we're not totally sure how we'll manage the space indefinitely, but at least for the next 10 days, I think, right? And then we'll
Yeah.
let you, and then we'll decide. Go ahead.
Yeah, so for sure it will be until February 11th, I think, available, and I'm just not sure about the technicalities. It might be available longer, depending on, I mean, so if you're not with more than 25 people at a time, which I assume will be fine. Oh, Stefan has some more information about this. I also wanted to say, before I give the word to Stefan, you can also use the Slack to contact others and say, hey, do you want to debate together? And then you could either go here, or you could use the medium of your choice, Skype, Zoom, Google Meet, whatever you like. So that's also, of course, always possible, and we highly encourage that, of course. Or you could even put like a note on the Slack, like debate on Monday, February 1st. I don't know whether that's the correct date. a.m. European time, who wants to join? You could do that, and we highly encourage that for sure.
Regarding the Slack, regarding the Garda Town space, that technically that will remain available to people to join. So we had it booked until February 11. Booking means we just can be here all at the same time, but if there are less than 25 people, people can also access the space afterwards. So if you need to debate, for example, and you don't have Skype at hand or something similar, you might want to consider coming here. We're a bit undecided how to continue with the space, also in terms of maybe we have a second iteration of this debate school. We're currently thinking about that, and in that regard also your feedback is very helpful in the evaluation forum, or as you told us more informally over the week, that was very helpful. So would be very great if you could let us know, so we have a better idea how we should reuse this space.
Yep, and we can even do a little bit of that now. So here in this session, we'll talk about using debate in daily life, as well as, or in your study and research, as well as continuing the skill development, right? So one aspect of that is checking and seeing the interest amongst you guys, this group right here, for how you might want to continue debating. And let me just do a couple of questions and we'll get a show of hands. That's an easy way to do it, and I'll just make note, right, of how many people, and then we can, again, formally organize things via Slack, and we have your email addresses, of course, and we'll just see depending on that. So let me just ask, how many people, just a show of hands, would be interested in another 5-day online course similar to this one? Okay, that is
oh, wow,
a good number of you. Yeah, more than half. Okay, interesting. Okay, put your hands down. We'll ask another one. Okay, I'm not taking count, but that's okay. Okay, so now how many of you would like that? So those of you who raised your hands wanting that kind of course, this kind of course again, how many of you would like it to be the exact same material, just covered again and attending, so that you get to learn these basics again? Yeah, so question one, how many of you would like the exact same material repeated? Okay, slowly a few, but not as many. So that implies then that the others of you would like different material. I can imagine that. Don't need to ask if that. Okay, so you're raising your hands. Yes, you would like different material. Okay, so that's an interesting thing. Now, another option, so that would be a 5-day course like this. Another option, or in addition, perhaps even, is what Stefan, Marika, myself, also Swagat, who has been coming to several of the sessions, although not right here, but he came to several of them, as well as a young woman in a PhD program named Shilpi, and also one of America's research assistants. Well, he was learning to debate with us when you guys were in Sarah, but not on the online group. But we had an online group that was meeting weekly for quite a while, practicing debate. So that could be another possibility. So please raise your hand if you'd be interested in meeting on a weekly basis to practice debate. Okay, again, that's slightly more than half. Oh, Kachok is here. Very good. Thank you for coming. Okay, so slightly more than half, please lower your hands. Okay, so that's, I'll just say 20 people out of 30 or so, just roughly. Now, how many people, so another option, oh, we have a couple questions coming. Okay, the comments on these questions. Could we also have some reviews of this week's materials? Okay, perhaps 2 different courses, right? That could be um, done. Now, how many people? So here's another option. Potentially, I'm not saying we have a definite way to do this in terms of like manpower and the instructors and everything, but let's just imagine that we could work it out. How many people might be interested in some kind of daily course and debate practice for, let's just say 2 months, maybe, or let's just say a 2-month intensive where we're meeting, or maybe intensive is not the right word, but a 2-month program of debate training where we can actually go through some content with lessons that cover material once or twice a week, and then the other sessions being debate practice for 3 or 4 sessions per week. So like a five session meetings per week for say 2 months. I'm saying 2 months because that's enough time to really get through some of the lessons, for instance, in the collected topics. So let's just say how many people could do that please raise your hand who would be interested in that. Okay, that's a good number of people as well. You guys are very dedicated to debate. Good to see. So that kind of program would really require another level of dedication, right? That would really require that you're able to make time in your daily life for, more or less as a genuine student of debate, where you're saying, okay, I'm taking this on as a practice in my daily life and integrating that. And I know some of you're all in different circumstances. So some of you are already students full time in certain, Dharma study contexts, and so that's probably the kind of person who would be, very would have a lot of more freedom to do that kind of thing. And then some of you, of course, are working as well, and that it might just be difficult to work that into your schedule. Of course, I realize. Okay, cool. So those are just possibilities that we can think about. Of course, we have, a certain, number of people, not huge number, but not no, a certain number of people who are very well trained in debate and also fluent in English, who are at Sarah J, or, if we also think of Atisha and others at the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics who are might be able to also sort of share the responsibility of instructing, especially because as we're all still students, um, all meaning the people that I'm familiar with, except for Atisha, and he's got other responsibilities, but most of us are still in school, so it might be difficult to really be present. but we can try and work something out, and we'll be in touch more about that. So definitely use the course evaluations to continue or to make your desires known. And again, you can sort of think about those 3 options as basic models for what you might want to do. Or if you have another idea, oh, why don't we do a workshop where we do this and that, or we have a different kind of population, or we have a different kind of debate topic where let's do a workshop where we only debate about science topics or cognitive science topics or something. That suggest that those are other options, of course, and that would be have a slightly different feel to it. Okay, so now let's come to the point where we discussed, what does this all mean? That's more or less the question at hand. What does this all mean? What, meaning, right? What does it do for us? Why are we learning to debate beyond just, having some fun, or just kind of, being, increasing our cognitive skills and intelligence and memory and our logic? But beyond just that skill growing, what's the purpose, right? How do we use it in daily life? How do we use it to, again, make better contributions, be able to contribute better, and be able to just, be a better person, a more kind person? So that's something that we did start to, some of the questions naturally that people brought up were in that kind of fold. So we started to talk about how debate can be used in academia, how debate, meaning how the impacts of debating can influence how you think about yourself and your peers, whether you're in academia or any other kind of work setting or any other kind of social setting, right? So just the notion of debates, natural kind of the features that the way they allow you to think differently, to be more open to considering others' perspectives, to having better sense of metacognition and meta-awareness of your own emotional states. So all of that being training that helps you to engage in other social spheres. So of course, go ahead, Marika, please.
Yeah, so I could also consider that it could be useful or interesting for some of my cognitive science colleagues to get together and debate about a particular cognitive theory, like maybe about memory or perception or mind wandering, like we've been doing, and to really explore that together, trying to formalize what we know in terms of this and seeing whether, this leads us to certain gaps and realizing problems with definitions that we're using in our work. And I could imagine that could also result in like a review paper or a grant proposal by going through this exercise of looking at our work in a different way. Or I can imagine that another interesting project from my perspective would be to think about how can we use this as a teaching tool with our students to maybe help them better, more deeply process the information that they're being given. Now, the challenge here is, of course, what kind of pieces can we use without a large amount of training? And I think that's what we're still all trying to work out. We've been thinking about this for the past at least year, if not 2 years. But yeah, I think that could be also interesting projects moving forward, especially for those in the academic world. I guess Andrew is asking a question.
More of, I'm not sure how digestible you think the works of Mathieu Ricard are, but for people that are not particularly trained in cognitive science, such as myself, I find his work kind of digestible and easy to navigate than whatever else. I mean, it's explained in a way that...
Sorry, Andrew, could you come up one step to the stage, right? So now everybody can hear the question.
Sorry. No, I was just saying, like, the works of Mathieu Ricard seem pretty digestible for non-specialists. I mean, I have little to no training in cognitive science, and it's still somewhat easy to understand without getting into the very, dense literature of knowing past decades of research and whatever else. And it's quite easy to pick up with little to no background. I'm not sure how interesting that kind of domain is.
Yeah, and just to clarify, what I was talking about in terms of digestible is more like the debate methodology, how to make that digestible to maybe like students that are in a program that's not dedicated to debate, but to whatever, learning cognitive science would be in my case, or artificial intelligence. Are there ways that we can maybe use some of the elements of this training to help them, give them a different tool for learning? I can imagine this could be very interesting. At least I would be very interested in that.
And it could be if we get some kind of group of core group of students who are quite committed to something like, daily practice, 5 days a week for an extended period of time, maybe not throughout the whole year, but at least some extended period of time. And then we could actually use that as, well, an actual experimental group of subjects that you know, we could probe your brains. No, just kidding. But just, have the course content. So after, developing the skill of debate to a certain degree, then, bring in course contents from a different field that you're not familiar with and see how well the debating actually allows you to understand, remember, and be able to, you know, repeat, well, not just repeat, but be able to understand and remember the material. And, I'm sure there are metrics for measuring that are well established already, right? How well someone can learn material from a given course. So that could be possible as well. And so now why don't we move into a discussion about using this in your work and daily life. So in general, I'll just make a couple comments and then we can get into groups and discuss it again, right? So people can really have your own take on it, share your own insights and thoughts, as well as aspirations. What do I want to be able to do in my daily life? And considering this debate format, how might that I be able to bring it in and have it be a useful tool, useful aid? So just briefly, I'll say the main thing with the skill of logic, and this one of my friends who is at the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics in Dharamsala, she's a nun. I think she's maybe now in the 7th year of the program or so, and very bright. She, when I was just beginning, kind of told me that her a sense of how it's benefited her life learning to debate is really being able to just take claims that we hear, not just, but one of the aspects is that she can take claims that she hears, or if it's just like in an advertisement or just something in the media or, anywhere that you hear a claim, and really be able to analyze and determine whether it's really a sound claim, right? So this is just kind of standard value benefit of having a good working understanding of logic, right? Is that claim, does it fill all of the does it fulfill the necessary qualities for a flawless reason, or is there a flawless reason to back it up, right? Is there a pervasion? Is it true of the subject? So again, going back to something like, you know, mail-in ballots, right, for elections. So the mail-in ballots are, mail-in ballots are fraudulent. Let's just say that's the statement. So there's lots of ways you can analyze that to determine if it's really logical or not, and that allows you to see, if things are true or not, and you can become more discerning. So that's one way. Then another way is in terms of, again, going back to emotional life, right? What our emotions are doing, and having that sense when we're reacting to someone, whether that's a peer, a family member, whether that's, again, a public figure that you're seeing in the media, whatever that is, then whoever that person is, then you're able to check your emotions with this kind of logic. What is my reaction actually based on? What kind, again, going back to Venerable Thupten Chodron's comments in that video on using syllogisms in daily life. So this now is she actually especially talked about in relation to how we view ourselves, right? When you get depressed because, oh, I'm such a failure because I got a bad score on a test, or I'm such a failure because I did this or that. Is there really a pervasion there? Is that really a flawless reason? And so that helps build self-confidence or maintain a good sense of of self-confidence, self-esteem, and it also helps you dealing with others, becoming less reactive, less agitated when people do things or say things that you don't like, or even do things you don't like, and just be able to see, okay, yes, that person did commit a crime. That person, did say a lie. Is there a pervasion that if someone commits a crime, someone's a criminal, then they're necessarily 100% negative, that to the degree that it merits my own mind becoming disturbed. Does that even make sense? So using reasoning to overcome anger is especially potent. So those are my only comments about it, and I'd like people to just discuss. But first, maybe Marika or Stefan want to say something as well.
So how long will people have to discuss this question?
So we have another 45 minutes right now. So why don't we take 15 minutes and then we'll come back again for a half hour. We'll do just a little bit of going over if people have questions or comments based on what you discussed, we can go over that, and then we'll do our final closing with, again, Kechok will give a final closing for the last few minutes. So we have 15 minutes now. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe also when you groups, you can discuss, decide with each other, whether one person is going to keep notes or so that you can report back. Maybe that would be nice in this format, so we can all sort of benefit from the results of the brainstorms.
Yeah, good point. Why don't we do it that way? Thank you very much. That would be good. So someone keep notes of what you're saying. So again, the question is, how will debate influence and impact your daily life? And how can you use it? Use it to benefit your daily life. So you can take notes, and then we'll do a go around from each group and share, and when we all come back together. Okay, so 15 minutes. Let's break out. Okay. Again, sorry, I forgot to email you yesterday after we decided to invite you to give the remarks. I forgot.
Yeah, Martin, it's fine because I was going on evening walk.
Okay.
And Kishing on would just call me. So we have another ETSI, Emerald Science Translation. And
you have now.
we have one conversation, but it's still going on, but it's fine.
You have that now?
Yes, but there are other students.
Oh, I'm
or
sorry.
Science graduate teachers also, they're also participating.
That's the workshop you guys have ongoing, an ongoing discussion.
This is the ongoing translation of science term, right? So this just started today, maybe for another 1 week.
I see.
Until the law start, yeah.
Yes, that's very important too. Okay, well, we'll be done, and so we have. If you could come and just the final remarks, we'll call you when it's time.
Oh yeah, sure.
In about 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yes.
You can just listen to what people are saying if you like to walk around a little bit.
Yeah, I did this even this afternoon.
You were in the debate group.
With the Stefan. Yeah, I was in the debate. I just listened to them.
How is that for you?
It's really good. Especially, they're confused. Some of them are confused with being and having, right?
Right.
And
right.
Yeah and yin.
Yes.
It's a little bit confused.
It's
I try to, just solve some of the ideas, they want to share with us. And then some of them are confused with, joints, musumushi.
Yes, yes.
And then I just give some ideas.
Good.
It's very, learning experience.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah,
Lasso. Teaching on.
it's very wonderful.
Lasso. Yeah, but yeah.
يلا سوسن.
Perhaps. Yeah.
I had a moment in the middle of the week where something happened, and I had a very strong inner reaction, and I noticed my thoughts, and I was very inspired by Thupten Chuying's video that was posted on the Slack about when you have these thoughts of being able to then even just debate with yourself of, is that really a correct story you're telling yourself right now? And by doing that, it really quickly calmed me down. And so that's something that I really want to continue to work on using this in daily life.
Mm-hmm.
It out, and I would want to work it through until it became familiar enough to be able to integrate the dynamics, because my understanding is there's this dynamic a process going on with emotions as there is in my head. So that's
well, I think of two things off the top. One is to just follow up with Gamcho. What Gamcho was saying is that it helps us dispel our false beliefs. So that I think is huge, just step by step. For me,
Marcelo, if you want to join a group where there's too many people, if you hold the G key, then it allows you to walk over another person, like through them. And then you can release, if you hold it and then go into the circle and then release it, you'll hear them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
So,
I think it's very, very helpful for me, I think. Okay. Okay. So we go to Yeshegyalpo now.
Yeah.
So Yeshegyalpo, which is the use, benefit, and impact of debate in your daily life?
So a lot of my daily life revolves around study. So this is a really good way to check what I've learned. But I was talking to a friend last night, and we'd sort of started doing a little bit, both of us have started doing in our own lives, a little bit more, I guess, clear thinking. And so he's expressing that.
I could not hear you very clearly.
I'm sorry?
What did you say about you and your friends? I could not hear clearly because there was a noise underneath.
Yeah. We started trying to be more clear in our thinking. And so he was expressing that by clarifying what concepts or words mean is actually really helpful in his life with his girlfriend, where they would start to argue. Turns out they're actually trying to get to the same point. They're just using different words. So, during disputes, or even just misunderstanding, trying to avoid those as much as possible by being clear about what we're talking about with another person.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And so now Pukan.
Hi.
So Pukan, can you tell us something about the use, benefit, and impacts of debate in daily life for you?
So I have to first start by saying that I haven't yet. I'm far from actually acquiring the style of this debate, but from this whatever little exposure I have had about the style of debate, I can feel that. First of all, I enter into debate every now and then in my daily life, and then there are times when they can turn heated, and partly they turn heated also because I don't have a language and an overall broader picture that allows me to trace where the debate is going. Now with this kind of if I have a style like this, it will also allow me to monitor where the debate is progressing and to check, and at the same time also allow me to participate in a more disinterested way. So these are the most immediate benefits I can see.
You mean
went back and I started to see the starting of the subject and the thesis, and I was like, wow, this is mind blowing. So basically, I'm very interested to start to apply this to everything, like the way we learn, the definition, the division, the way we learn that. Yeah. So I think it's a very good way to apply it. Yeah, like you mentioned, emotionally, of course, but from a practical, from a daily student perspective.
It will allow me to
clarify in my own head kind of what it is that I think, and I usually end up with you're just kind of going along with something, and whether it's Buddhist philosophy or other things in your life, you're often just kind of going along with things without really examining what is truly there or really happening on a somewhat deeper level. So I think that's been whatever beneficial I feel to me personally.
I don't know now. I hope you can hear me.
Assumptions that we have to flesh out and see, how are we disagreeing because of back a few steps there were assumptions.
Yeah.
And just letting everyone know, we have about 5 minutes remaining.
Others. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you guys put your hand up for like continuing on to do more?
Yeah. But not as intensive every day.
Yeah.
I just don't see how I can incorporate it into my schedule, but to keep in touch, really, to have basically as learning a new language. So weekly meeting with someone like a tandem kind of thing. Well, it can be a different person each week. It doesn't really matter, but keeping that going. Because I really compare it to a new language learning.
Yeah. I had so much fun. I love doing this so much, but I'm so exhausted. So I am kind of glad it's over, so I can like sleep for a couple of days.
I think also there is also the possibility of sparking synergies. Like, you know, each one of us is so different, right? I mean, I'm impressed to even this small group here, right? There's people from all over the world, different backgrounds, and there's scientists, there's scholars, there's all sorts of things, right? So I think one of the values here is that probably each one of us can spark synergies with others according to, you know, the areas of interest, and this is spanning globally, right? So I find this very fascinating. So I'm really hoping that going forward, you know, besides each one of us learning more, there will also be, you know, questions coming up like, you know, how can we bring this into our jobs, or how can we bring this into our society, or how can we not bring it into our job, or something like that. I think that is very precious. This is one of the very few instances where you see something valuable being, you know, used by such a diverse group. I find that fascinating, to say the least.
Yeah, me too. And to what you said, Yo, before, I think like integrating the debate, or if we think that integrating the debate into like more complex topics, I think that is really something that we can explore on the way of learning it better, because I cannot really anticipate how debate really works if you get to a certain level or some level, and if you're advanced, then you probably can like know more complex structures, and then you may be able to debate also the more complex topics. But yeah, I can also at the same time imagine that there may be some end to it where it is really difficult to integrate also different experiences. So yeah, but I would also really be interested to try that out and see how we may be able to also integrate different scientific backgrounds into into this in debating.
I guess where we are now, right? That's the kind of exciting thing, is we can kind of push it and see how far it can go, see how far we can, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Really cool.
All right, time's up for the small group discussion, and we'll just come back to the big group, and people can share what you discussed. And as people come in, or maybe I'll wait for everyone to come in before mentioning it. If there's anyone who already knows that you would like to share some of the, I think, right, just one kind of representative from each of the groups would be fine. So we had 4 little breakout groups. So if one person from each group would like to, you know, give a little overview, we'll have someone come up. So if you already know that you'd like to do that, please, well, you can just come right up. Okay, Betty, thank you. Oops, yep, come on stage. So before you begin, I will just say that Stefan has already created a new channel in the Slack forum, which is for staying in touch. So that's a very good idea, and people will be able to use that in order to make other, if you want to have a breakout WhatsApp group or Telegram or whatever it is, or just return to this space itself. You can connect to each other there, and thank you for that, Stefan. Okay, so please, Betty, go ahead and share what your group had discussed.
Okay, I'll just go through. There were several points. First of all, should I say the names or should I just say the points? No names, just the point. Okay, one was it's very useful to analyze what our process of thinking is, especially around doubt, and about learning how the things, and also wrong views, that it really helps to sort out the source and structure of our wrong views. Can you hear me? Oh, okay, good. Of wrong views. And it just breaks the inner patterns we have to decide about wrong views. There was also an interest in analyzing the mind to understand better the relationship, the role that emotions play, that we can see how much activity the mind is using the conceptual to try to learn debate. And it would be very good to then integrate the equal awareness of the dynamics at work with emotions, as we're right now putting into our mental conceptual ideas. And it's a really good tool for just analyzing the process of thinking, which we just don't do normally. And so it's bringing us into something really useful that we often don't have the wherewithal to tune into. And there was a strong resonance with the idea that it's very useful to dispel false beliefs, that it really can help us sort out and have a better foundation for our moving through our days and our mental perspective. And also, one person noticed that they've been doing a lot of things online, and it was so important to have this interaction debate because there's not as much of that discussion interaction when so much is online. One thought that it was very good that they felt they were making progress and learning in a short period of time. So there was a certain sense of forward motion, and that you didn't have to have had a long background. And also, it was very important because those studying Dharma, that all the former masters used to debate, and suddenly things were being revealed about the texts, the teachings, all of that wasn't accessible until you began to understand debates. And one had only been studying Buddhism 2 years. And so they're having that very familiar confusion as you sort it out, and that was very useful. And there was a strong sense that it really helps with it gets you on a path where you start sorting out relationships with yourself, with others, with family, with your environment, that how we're all dependent in that deep dependent of origination. It's just a very useful tool to start sorting out how all these the true reality of what the nature is of all these relationships. There. It was a lot. Sorry.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Betty, and thank you for all of the group members who were together with Betty for having those reflections and sharing your experiences, which I think many other students here are resonating with, and that's very beautiful. So let's move on. I think Sangmo was in a different group, right?
Yes, I was in a different group. I took some notes for all of us, and sorry for my English. Sometimes it's not the best English, but I try to explain. Somebody says that for them it's easier to deal with difficult people. Applying the logic, they used to apply the logic to their mental and internal chatter, and this is very helpful for some of them. Some of them says that is a good way for studying and gives a clearer thinking of the meaning of concept and words without arguing, just using different words. Someone says that it gives the discipline to track their own progress with the challenger. Someone says that it does not give space to argumentations and about the tune and the meaning of a dialogue between two people, and solves inconsistencies of two people talking. Somebody says that is also helpful for his masterhood. And somebody says that understood that they were taking things for granted, thinking that they were true, but this truthfulness was not real. And somebody says as well that they develop more patient, and they use no more to discuss for different points of view. And this was more or less what we discussed in this group.
Great, thank you for
Thank
your
you.
review of that. Sounds like you had a very lovely discussion, and we can have, if we can have someone from, I think there are 2 groups still remaining, so if we can quickly, we have, yeah, we have good 5 minutes, so. Anyone want to come, or, oh yeah, Marco. Oh, Marco, are you coming? I think you have to come all the way on the stage. There we go.
Right, in our group, I think we had mainly 4 points. One is to react appropriately in emotionally charged situations, that when the emotions get heated up, that one can turn down the heat and really in a logical manner then look at the problem or the difference of opinions together, and then see whether one can come together or whether it's maybe just a misunderstanding via miscommunication or and so on. Another way how to use this way of debating is to self-debate, to investigate one's own beliefs in a very structured manner. Such self-beliefs which one has perhaps taken up previously for whatever reason in an unquestioned manner. And then, for example, I think there was this example given in this one YouTube video, I am stupid because I learn slower than other people. And then just taking on such a belief on oneself and not even questioning it, thinking this would be true, and now one can actually investigate whether this would be true or just unfounded. The third reason how to use it, or the third bullet point which I have, sort of relates to the first point, to have fruitful discussion in academia. When sometimes we have symposiums or conferences, and you have specialists from very different fields, and they're discussing one point. Every person has its own or her own unique educational background, even his or her own vocabulary. So they might be discussing even the same thing, but then yet they're not even connecting. And so this can be, especially when it's very emotionally charged, this can be also used as a tool have it in a way that it's not so emotionally charged, and that all people can contribute, and then one ideally from all different perspectives can view one problem and maybe solve it together in a very structured manner. And one more thing is, one student said for one's own studies, which I also found very helpful, to not just one's own beliefs, but also one's own studies. One could self-debate with this. Or, for example, myself, I was thinking when I'm writing semester papers, then at the end of the semester paper, I can really have now a method how in a structured manner I can check out which outlooks would make sense to research, or which outlooks would be just a futile exercise and a waste of time, perhaps. And one more thing which I scribbled down while running into the monastery again, to remain critical of claims being thrown at one in advertisement, social media, and anything which we are confronted with in daily lives, and which are just claims of truth, and then one can actually see, well, is this actually true? Does this claim hold true, or is it just does it just sound good and it just sells very nice? All right.
Thank you, Marco. Very good. Very nice reflections and sharing. And was there one more group still? I think the group with who was it, Severin, and maybe who was in that group? Did you guys go already? Yes. Okay. So maybe there were only 3 groups. Does anyone know for sure? Because I was just kind of circling around, but I don't recall. Is that everyone? Okay, good. I think so. So I just wanted to comment that last point about, or one of the last points, not the very last one, about using debate in academia, or at least having it as a framework to think about when there are academic discussions going on, is very much. Oh, Marlena, yes, you were in another group. Okay, that was not Severin's group though.
Yeah, sorry. We just there was a fourth group. I just we were figuring out who was gonna come up. Okay, so yeah, I think a lot of things were already said in our group. We also discussed or said that we will very much intend to integrate the debate structure in our lives, but that we already sometimes notice that we put a lot of more emphasis, or the words that people are using matter a lot more than they were before, and this can sometimes impede the flow of a casual conversation. But that's also something to deal with, so to say. And then we said also that we would be very interested to use this debate format and the structure to actually integrate people from different backgrounds and their knowledges when they discuss into one bigger framework, so they can understand each other better and actually communicate on a basis. I think, and then we were all really interested also into continuing learning debate more and interacting with people, some on a daily basis and some others on a weekly basis. So because it's much like learning a new language actually, so it takes time and practice and rereading the scripts and
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing and for coming up. So we have gone around for all the groups to share, and so we now Yeah, I would say we're closing this course now and beginning for many people who are interested and dedicated to learning, beginning new a new practice, a new way of thinking, of learning a way of thinking. And so we do, I can say that we will be able to, in some form or another, produce or create opportunities for more debate. It could be possible to, well, let's stay in touch by email and we'll just ask more specifically what people might be interested in and we'll try and figure out what to organize. So that's great. I just was going to comment very briefly about that using debate academically. You know, historically, in let's just say go back to Tibet to the 15th, 14th, 15th centuries of Tsongkhapa's time. What the practice was, that I don't know to what degree debate was used the way it is today as a learning tool so much in the monasteries. It probably was to some degree, but not as formally. But what it was used as in a formal way was that scholars, sort of the top scholars in the land, the most, you know, the most expert researchers who were really, you know, dedicated to understanding these deepest aspects of philosophy would go and do the rounds of the biggest monasteries, and they would have public debates where there would be someone, you know, the top scholars who were considered to be the, you know, the experts in the field, someone would defend from the home monastery, and then the traveling scholar would debate them. That's exactly what Tsongkhapa himself did. So in a way, it's like having a big academic conference, and you're like, you know, you're not doing research on cognitive science or quantum particles, but you're doing research on the words of the Buddha and the theories that are presented therein and all the commentary or literature. And so it's a philosophical conference, right? So that's sort of what that is. And I mean, who could imagine that happening in some, you know, maybe not everywhere, or not universally, but certainly I could imagine that happening in some contexts where we have actual, you know, scholars in a certain field using this as a format where it actually allows, you know, an academic field to move forward through this process of debating. Okay, so before we leave, then we're coming to the end of our last session of our last day, and we're going to invite Venerable Kechok to come and give closing remarks. And before that, I just want to, well, first of all, I think on the first day when he did come and give the opening, I don't think anyone introduced him since he was giving the opening. So just so you all know, Venerable Kechok, and thank you for coming up, is the director of the Sarah J. Science Center. And he's also within the team of researchers who are the cohort of researchers who have been with Marika to do the research that she mentioned on that first day. And so we're very glad he's here and able to contribute and help organize the program. And so before again Kechok gives the remarks, I'll just say, so thank you so much for everyone being here. I've had so much joy seeing such a dedicated group of people learn this difficult and new language, but with vigor, with inspiration, with a lot of kindness and laughter and helping each other out for those of you who were already experienced, and just being so patient with each other and really just as a group learning together has been truly joyful for me to see. And I am happy to commit to doing whatever I can to help this skill flourish for all of you. And again, to create a community of debaters, which I think would just be a contribution for our world, because it does help with the mind's development, becoming more truthful, more clear. And so I'm very happy to see all of your dedication and participation. So that's it for me, and now if I could pass to Marika and then Stefan, if you'd like to give some final comments.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Well, I would first and foremost, I want to thank Dönjö and Stefan, who've been doing phenomenal work at really putting this all together and making it happen. And I think also just devising the program, devising the space, that's been really great space to debate in and to learn in. And I've learned a lot by talking with all of you and trying to share the little knowledge I have. So I really hope that we'll be able to continue this way. And also, of course, thank you to Sarah J. Monastery that's been supporting our research over the years and, well, basically held the tradition alive. So that's been really wonderful. So thank you very much.
Also for me, thank you very much to Dönjö and Marieke and Kecok, or Sarah J in general. I think this was an amazing week, amazing last days. Dönjö did an amazing job at teaching all the different concepts and providing amazing resources. Also, Marieke, thank you very much for keeping us up to date with great resources. And all four of us were walking around and trying to talk to different people, and all the feedback we got was every time really great. So from I speak for the three and I think four of us to say that we were pretty happy with how this week went. We're amazed by the audience. It is you all, that you were so eager to join and so into things, and it was really great to work with you all people and to learn, to study, and to do debate together. Thank you very much for coming.
And thank you. And one final comment from me, because I'm seeing the question come up in the chat and I did forget to mention it. So people are asking to make donations. So that would be wonderful. Of course, you know, maybe this isn't actual Dharma because we're just presenting a method, but, you know, in general, of course, you know, Dharma or anything that could be of value to someone is presented without charge. That's a, what do you call it? Just a common courtesy, I should say, rather than linking it to any spiritual tradition. It's just a common courtesy. So we're happy to present, of course, all of this from our sense of wanting to be of service. But if you would like to make an offering to help the Sarah J Monastery run, because it is, of course, totally run from the generosity of the community, of the lay people around, so that would be very kind and appreciated. So to do that, we will post the website. It is a little tricky because I'll just say it and then we'll write the instructions, but the way you make a donation, you add a number of, you know, there's like as if you're making a purchase of some item where you put how many you want, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you don't write the dollar amount. It's 1 equals $5 US. And so if you want to donate $20, you would write 4. You would click, you know, select 4, and that would be a $20 donation. So we'll just write that in the little email and send that out. So everyone's on the email list. So we will send out that email after the course. And thank you so much for asking about that. So now, without further ado, please give the final closing remarks, Venerable Kecok, and look forward to seeing everyone in the future.
Hello, can you hear? Right, okay. Hello, everyone. So it has been very, you know, time flies so, you know, fast. 5 days. This is the fun of, you know, debate. So when you're totally observing debate, you don't know how the time flies. Time flies very fast. So at the same time, we learn and new ideas and new knowledge. This is how the, you know, one important side of the debate. So when you're totally observed, you know, at the same time, you don't know how the time goes. This is one part of, you know, one part of important aspect of debate. Now I would like to extend my gratitude and thankful to Thien La and then Dr. Marika, and then Stefan. Their dedication, their contribution, they work so hard to bring us all together on this, virtual debate and, winter school debate. And, even we have lots of problems like pandemic, but this is even we have lots of problems, but virtually our debate winter school will bring us all together in one platform and share our knowledge, ancient dialectical debate and the skill and technique we use in the monastic tradition. And now with the help of Tenela and Dr. Marika and Stefan, all this ancient technique are made accessible, or more accessible to the modern all the scholars. So I'm very thankful to Tenela and Dr. Marika and then Stefan, and also for Geshe-Ngong Nubula, who's not here with us. Geshe is very busy, and he's the education director of our education department. So we have been doing all these coordinations and then all this communication with Tenela and Marika and Stefan. So I'm also very thankful to Geshe-Ngong Nubula. And then we are very grateful to the Abbot of Serrache and our administrative office for the efforts and the encouragement and the leadership. So it's very, we are very thankful to all of them to materialize this, virtual debate program. And I'm also very thankful to all the participants, all the scholars and teachers and all the students. For without your participation, and this debate with the school are not possible. So it's more like collective efforts that bring us all together. We call it collective karma. At the same time, interdependence. We are all connected to each other. So that's why it's very important for us to continue our conversation in the future, as Tenela and many of our participants, they suggest it's very important for building of knowledge. And so one of the important technique that we use in the monastery is, first, we call it study, and then reflection, then meditation. So the study is just you reading books, or just you listening to any teaching from your teachers, or just reading by book. We get lots of knowledge. But just by reading and text is not enough. We need reflection, right? So just to having a good conviction of the subject matters or whatever topic you're dealing with. So reflection is very important. So just think again and again and again. And then once you acquire this kind of skill or that understanding, then you jump, or next step is just meditation. So so we have different understanding of meditation. Here, I mean the meditation in the sense, it's more like you're more familiar, getting familiar with the topic that you discuss with, or the topic you are learning, or subject you are learning. So you should get more experiential knowledge through meditations. So here, the debate is one type of meditation. It is called analytical meditation, as on the opening days, His Eminence Abbot of Serrache, he mentioned about the importance of analytical meditations. And so I think it's very important for us to, continue this discussion. So, and we are just, realizing that one of the visions of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's visions of, extension of knowledge of Buddhist science that we have in our tradition. Those brought from India. Basically, these are all the ancient Indian thoughts, right? It had been translated into Tibetan, and then for a long, period of time, this knowledge had been preserved. Now it is because of His Holiness Dalai Lama vision and his contribution, then we are able to understand, or make a contribution through this knowledge of debate. As you mentioned, one of the important beneficials, or one of the important aspect of this kind of debate is not only getting knowledge, but also it is very helpful us to dispel the lots of misconception that we have, or wrong view that we have in our mind when you discuss with your friends, or when you're reading book, you come up with lots of disagreement and new ideas. So when you come across with all this disagreement or a misconception or wrong view, then the debate will really help for you to analyze, just by teasing out all these problems, and you'll find the a genuine solution to your debate. Debate in the sense just by using your own mind and then just reflect and then you meditate. So it is self, this kind of knowledge you can just develop through the debate. But another aspect of debate is it's bringing us all together, like lots of interaction. It's not just one way. It is just like playing ping pong, right? So you just say one thing, then someone, we call it a challenger and defender, right? When you come with your own idea, then you see some disagreement, then you find how to deal with this, this problem. So whether you use the different technique like, technique of like syllogism, like as the equivalence, and then with contradictions and 3 joins and 4 joins, this is very helpful for us to acquire the knowledge through this technique, right? And then the main the goal of all this debate is not just acquiring knowledge, but also it's very helpful for us to remove lots of doubts and then acquire knowledge, and then at the same time it really keep your mind very positive, positive, and also like acquire different atmosphere in oneself. I would say also change your behavior and also lots of positivity in your thinking, and then lots of contributions you can make through this debate. So many of the great Nalanda master like Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti and Asanga, they use the same technique. In the early Tibet and in India, most of the technique, they don't use much textbook. They use only orally, right, through verbal. So this is how we pass down from the ancient Tibetan master up to now. We use all the technique. Now we have lots of accessible to new form of books. In the ancient time, it is just passing your knowledge to one person, another person through your scholars, and only the technique that we have is only your mind and just reflection and debate and meditation. So we don't use like modern technique like pen and pencil and computer. So this is one of the best, I would say, technique to dispels lots of our doubts and misinformation and misconception, distorted information. Then we have come in contact and have day-to-day life. So it's very helpful for us to acquiring knowledge. And then and another thing that I would like to share with you is His Holiness Dalai Lama's many times emphasized the secular education. These technique can be used not only as religious aspect, but you can use in many subjects we're dealing with. We can use in the mathematics. We can use this technique in sociology and neuroscience. We can use this technique in even in business, right? So His Holiness always mentioned that now is the 21st century, so we have lots of accessible to the new technology. We can use this, very in a positive way, like social media. We can use this in positive way. Then we can make a lot of contribution. This is the vision of Dalai Lama to revival of ancient Indian thoughts, ancient Indian ideas, right? That we have in Tibetan, culture. That we call it. Usually we call it culture of compassion. This is the Dalai Lama visions to, outreach program to the modern world. So through this program, sharing of all this knowledge. So it is like a learning from each other, mutual learning, right? So we learn all this new idea from the Western professors, scientists, and then from our perspective, from our side, we share our Tibetan, all this debate and then not only just about logic and reasoning, but also like how to deal with the emotions. So like about the consciousness. So when you're going through the problems and you have lots of, some kind of problem in your life, then how we can use this technique to deal with all this problem. This is one of the technique to overcome in your daily life. So I think it's not only acquiring knowledge, but it's very helpful for you to how to lead a life very positive way. When you have discussion, disagreement, then how should you find a solution? This is one of the technique that I see. Yeah, that's why I think this is one of the, the Teunla and Marikala and then Stefan La have come up with this idea. Then it's very wonderful to sharing this idea to many of the audience. So I'm very thankful to, on behalf of Sarah J, I would like to once again thank all those hard work, put in by all these three great, the person, Venerable Teunla and Dr. Marika and Stefan, they make accessible to all this knowledge, accessible to all of us. So I'm very thankful on behalf of Sarah J and our science department. I would like to thank you for all of you and also all the participants once again. And then I would like to request all the participants to please continue. So this is just the beginning, right? We are just beginning this platform, and we'll continue to do so in the future, not only for but now at this time we have lots of sign up for this program, and more than 120 or something, right? In the future, we'll be able to extend as many people who are really interested in debate and learning this process. So I'm very thankful to all of you, and on behalf of Siraj, I would like to thank you for all of us for make this wonderful session very successful. And we'll pray and hope we'll have a more very helpful and future in learning this virtual learning knowledge and all this role debate in our daily life. And I wish you all a very happy, even we are going through the difficult time of pandemic. But I hope you'll find some solution to your technique of debate will really help you to find ease and peace of mind. And thank you for everyone. And thank you for everyone, and we'll meet again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Venerable Kechogla. Very nice words to close up our course. And I do want to just reiterate that this debate method and the surrounding logical theory and the philosophical framework has been given to us. We were born in a foreign land, and myself being able to go to India, to Dharamsala, to Sarah J Monastery to study this material. And there's absolutely no necessity for the Tibetan community, the Indian government, to allow me to do that. Certainly if it was in the United States, it would be much more difficult for people to just come there at will and just, basically just buy a plane ticket and everything else taken care of for them, which the monastery does take care of everything for the students who go there. So it's just an extraordinary kindness and generosity to even the fact that I even am able to learn this. So certainly I see it as a responsibility to try and help others who are interested and keep passing it down. And I will just make one final sort of organizational comment that so please look out for an email in your inbox where we will have three main things, and it will describe, once again, we'll have the link and the instructions for making a donation. We will again give a link for the course evaluation, so we would appreciate if you could fill that out. And then we will ask more explicitly what your interest, for each of you individually would be in continuing or having another type of course / meeting for debate meeting to continue. So with that, we will close the course, and thank you to everybody. If anyone has a final question, I can stay on, and if you just come up and if you have a final question, I'll be here a few more minutes.